Dungeon World fills me with nostalgia for gaming sessions in my childhood that probably never really were. It feels like an old school RPG, but its rules come from a modern storytelling approach. In my opinion, it's the best way to have a fun D&D night with your friends without using the actually really massive D&D rule set. The Dungeon World rules are simple and easy to learn, yet in the games I mastered I never felt like I had to have more rules to handle any given situation. It was always easy enough to adapt the given rules and have the players roll on something and keep the plot flowing. At the core of the rules are the so-called moves. Everything a character does that has potentially bad consequences is handled by a move. For example, if you want to attack someone in close combat and that someone is trying to stab you back at the same time, that is handled by the hack and slash move. If you want to attack someone in close combat who can't defend himself at all, so there are no consequences to be had, that's not a move in Dungeon World, and you can just do it and roll your damage. These rules are handled by Dungeon World's, I think, ingenious dice system, where you roll 2d6 and you add your attribute modifier, and if the total comes to 10 or more, you succeed, great. If the total comes to 6 or less, you fail and suffer the consequences. But if your total lands somewhere between 7 and 9, which is more often the case than not, you succeed, but at a cost. For examples, my players try to escape a collapsing cave by climbing through a hole in the roof, and the mage in the group didn't roll that great, he had something like a 7. So I told him, yes, you can make it up there, but you notice that the loot you just acquired is too heavy. You can only make it if you let go of the loot. So we had this like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade move where I had to decide, do I go for the Grail or do I grab my partner's hands to save my life? And that made for a bit of drama. And I find that fun. Find those moments are more interesting than straight up success or straight up failure. Also because you have these set numbers you need to reach, no modifiers, no situational difficulty modifiers at all. As a DM I don't have to think about that and can focus on other things. You might say, but oh, some situations might be easier, some might be harder, but I find that I'm not interested in easy situations. I only let the players roll for hard and potentially dangerous situations. And even if they are good at what they're doing, they have a good chance to succeed at course or fail outright. So I don't feel the need to give them difficulty modifiers at all. The characters are made of the 6 usual stats of the D20 system and the class. Each class comes with its own hit points, damage dice and a set of special moves. As you level up, you can put a point in your stats and pick a new special move, a new focus for your class. And there's also the ability to multi-class and pick some moves from different classes to really make the character your own. It's a simple system, and even a novice can make a character in 15 minutes, but it's not so simple that one of my veteran players couldn't spend 2 hours making his character. And if the classes given to you in the rulebook are not enough, there are dozens of classes you can find online made by fans and independent developers, and you can find pretty much anything you desire up there. And not only classes, because it's an open gaming license, you can find a ton of additional supplements, be it rules, settings or campaigns online, and you can find pretty much any setting you can think of. Someone has made a dungeon world conversion for it already. So you can get whatever you want, whatever your campaign needs. I think I will do a future video presenting my favorite Dungeon World supplements, because I've got a few. What I personally like about Dungeon World is that it comes without its own background, its own world. Instead, it has rules and tools to improvise and make it up as you go or when you prepare. And those make it really easy to make up your own monsters, NPCs, cities, kingdoms, campaigns, no problem at all. It also encourages you to leave blanks for your players to make up, which I found to be a fun and rewarding experience. For example, I had this dungeon set in a huge old fortress that had stood somewhere for centuries. The stone was darkened and overgrown with leaves and moss. And I described to my players that they had never seen architecture like this before. And I asked them, what is so special about this architecture? And they came up with that it is giant architecture, like it was made by a race of 10-meter tall humanoids. And that turned out to be great. Gave the dungeon the epic scale I was looking for, and it made for some interesting concepts as they went ahead and explored the dungeon. For example, every doorway was massive, so it was really hard to get any choke points to funnel enemies into. Also, every staircase had 2-meter high steps, so they had to climb this, and it really slowed them down when they tried to storm a tower where some crossbowmen were holed up. It also gave me the theme for the boss of the dungeon, a 12-meter tall giant general in plate armor, bound to the highest tower by an undying curse. That made for a great battle. What I don't like about Dungeon World is that the rules can be vague and open to interpretation, and that takes some getting used to. I have just played Shadowrun before, and that has a very big and comprehensive rule set where you can look everything up and just follow the rules. In Dungeon World, you have to make up your own interpretation of the rules and work out however they work for you. I feel like it helps to know the D&D rule set before you play Dungeon World, to actually know how it is supposed to be played. But I could be wrong, because I don't know anyone who hasn't actually played D&D before they came to Dungeon World. Also, the artwork in the Dungeon World rules is not great at all. It's not a huge problem, since I have a huge library of RPG books already, and if I need inspiration or anything, I can just pick up something like my beloved Symbaroum and use some artwork from there for inspiration. Not a biggie. Right now, Dungeon World is my favorite RPG. It reminds me of playing back when I started out. We just started, made up characters, had great adventures, and made up everything as we went, and didn't worry that much about the rules. But I know I'm viewing those early days through rose-tinted nostalgia glasses. Dungeon World is actually a better rule set than anything we had back then. It's easy to learn, fast and streamlined, yet it is complex enough to satisfy me and my veteran players, and also it makes improvising just so easy. You can pick up a PDF of the core rulebook on, for example, drivethroughrpg for around $10, and I can wholeheartedly recommend you checking it out. That's it for today. Thanks, and goodbye.